Maria stood frozen outside the glass-walled conference room, her mop still dripping soapy water onto the polished marble floor. Through the transparent barrier, she watched Director Harrison slam his fist on the mahogany table, his face crimson with rage as he glared at the bewildered translators seated before him. The $1 million contract with the Japanese investors was crumbling, and everyone in the room knew it. What they didn't know was that the quiet woman in the custodial uniform, invisible to them all these years, was about to change everything. Maria had cleaned the halls of Westbrook International for 7 years. 7 years of emptying trash bins filled with half-eaten sushi from working lunches, wiping down whiteboards covered in strategic plans she wasn't supposed to understand, and making herself small whenever the executives rushed past in their expensive suits. She was 52 years old, her hands rough from industrial cleaners, her shoulders aching from years of bending and lifting. To everyone at Westbrook, she was just the janitor, a fixture as unremarkable as the potted plants she watered every Tuesday. But Maria carried secrets in her heart that none of them could imagine. Director Harrison's voice boomed through the glass. "This is completely unacceptable. We've flown these investors halfway around the world. And none of you can properly translate this technical document? What kind of professionals are you?" The 3 translators shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The youngest one, a woman barely 30, spoke up timidly. "Director Harrison, this dialect is extremely specialized. It's a regional variant mixed with technical jargon, specific to industrial manufacturing. We've done our best, but—" "Your best isn't good enough," Harrison interrupted, his laugh bitter and mocking. "I'm paying you people a fortune, and you can't even handle basic translation? My 10-year-old could probably do better with Google Translate." Maria's hand tightened on her mop handle. She'd witnessed Harrison's cruelty before, the way he'd fired his assistant for bringing him the wrong coffee, how he'd humiliated a junior analyst in front of the entire office for a minor calculation error. He ruled through fear and intimidation, convinced that his Harvard MBA made him superior to everyone around him. The meeting dissolved into chaos. The Japanese investors, Mr. Tanaka and his team, sat in dignified silence, their faces carefully neutral. Despite the obvious insult to their language and culture, Maria watched Mr. Tanaka's assistant carefully fold the disputed document and place it back in her briefcase. They would leave. The deal would die, and Harrison would blame everyone but himself. As the executives filed out, Harrison spotted Maria through the glass. He yanked the door open. "Don't just stand there gawking. Clean this mess up. We've got another meeting in 20 minutes. He didn't wait for a response. Maria entered the conference room, her heart pounding. The Japanese delegation was gathering their materials, preparing to leave. Mr. Tanaka's face showed profound disappointment, not anger, just a deep sadness that transcended language. She recognized that look. She'd seen it in her father's eyes years ago, when he'd traveled to America full of hope, only to be treated as less than human because of his accent. She shouldn't speak. She should stay invisible, do her job, and go home to her small apartment like always. But something in Mr. Tanaka's expression broke through her lifetime of conditioning to remain silent. "Excuse me," Maria said softly in Japanese, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Tanaka looked up, startled. His assistant's eyes widened. "I couldn't help but overhear," Maria continued in flawless Japanese, switching effortlessly to the exact regional dialect that had stumped the professional translators. "I believe I understand the confusion with the document. The terminology you're using relates to a specific manufacturing process developed in Osaka in the 1970s. It's not commonly used anymore, even in Japan." The room fell absolutely silent. Mr. Tanaka stood slowly, studying Maria as if seeing her for the first time. "You speak Kansai, Ben?" he asked, referring to the dialect. "My mother was from Osaka," Maria explained, still speaking Japanese. "She worked in manufacturing before moving to America. She taught me the language, including the technical terms from her industry. I've listened to your presentations all week while I cleaned. If you'd like, I could help clarify the translation." Mr. Tanaka glanced at his team, then back at Maria. "You've been listening all week? You understand our proposal?" Maria nodded. "Every word." And I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding. Your innovation isn't just about efficiency, it's about honoring the workers, creating dignity in labor. But that concept didn't translate well. Director Harrison thinks you're only talking about cost reduction. For the next hour, Maria sat at that conference table, still in her custodial uniform, her name tag crooked and translated. But she did more than convert words from one language to another. She bridged cultures, explaining nuances that the professional translators had missed. She helped Mr. Tanaka understand American business expectations, and she helped his team articulate their vision in ways that would resonate with Westbrook's values. When Director Harrison returned with his senior team, expecting to find an empty room, he instead found Maria deep in conversation with the investors. Technical documents spread across the table, everyone nodding and smiling. "What the hell is going on here?" Harrison demanded. Mr. Tanaka stood, his expression transformed. "Director Harrison, your janitor has accomplished what your translators could not. She has helped us reach true understanding. We are ready to proceed with the contract." Harrison's laugh was sharp and cruel. "You're joking. She's a janitor. She cleans toilets. You want her negotiating $1 million deal?" $7 million, Mr. Tanaka corrected quietly. "And yes, otherwise we will take our business elsewhere." Maria watched Harrison's face. She could see the calculation in his eyes, the war between his ego and his greed. She wanted to tell Mr. Tanaka it was okay, that she didn't need this, that she'd survived this long by staying in the background. But then she thought of her mother, who'd been a respected engineer in Japan, but could only find factory work in America, because no one would recognize her credentials. She thought of her daughter, struggling to pay for community college while working 3 jobs. "Director Harrison," Maria said calmly, "I've been invisible in this company for 7 years. I've learned things you'd never believe, not just languages, but how business really works. I've read the documents you throw away. I've listened to the negotiations you think no one hears. I've watched you succeed and fail, and I know this deal is important to you." Harrison stared at her, truly seeing her for the first time. "So here's what's going to happen," Maria continued, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "I'm going to help you close this deal. And in return, you're going to create a position for me that reflects my actual skills. Fair salary, benefits, respect. And you're going to fund scholarships for the children of everyone on your custodial staff, because people like us are invisible to you, but we're not invisible to the world." The room held its breath. Harrison could walk away. He could fire her, humiliate her, destroy her. But Mr. Tanaka was watching, and so was his team. And Harrison wanted that $7 million more than he wanted his pride. "Fine," he bit out. "You help close this deal and we'll talk about your terms." "No," Maria said firmly. "We agree to terms now in front of witnesses. Or I walk away and so does Mr. Tanaka." Harrison's jaw clenched, but he nodded. 3 months later, Maria sat in her new office, small but with a window, reviewing translation contracts in her role as Westbrook, International's Director of Cross-Cultural Communications. Her daughter had received a full scholarship to finish her degree. The custodial staff had benefits they'd never dreamed of, and their children had educational opportunities that would change their lives. The Japanese deal had closed successfully, bringing Westbrook its most profitable quarter in history. Harrison barely spoke to Maria, but he didn't interfere with her work. She'd proven herself invaluable, and even his ego couldn't argue with the bottom line. But the real victory came on a Tuesday afternoon when Maria noticed a new janitor struggling with the same industrial cleaner that had once scarred her own hands. Maria stopped, taught her a better technique, and chatted with her in Portuguese. The young woman's eyes filled with tears. "You were a janitor too?" she asked. "I was," Maria said. "And there's no shame in that. But don't let anyone convince you that's all you are. You're here, you're watching, you're learning. When your moment comes, be ready." As Maria returned to her office, she passed the conference room where it had all begun. Through the glass wall, she could see her reflection, no longer invisible, no longer silent. She thought of everyone who'd been overlooked, underestimated, treated as less than they were. This victory wasn't just hers. It belonged to all of them. Sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one nobody thinks to ask. Sometimes strength comes wrapped in humility, and power hides behind a mop and bucket. And sometimes, when cruelty laughs at kindness, the universe finds a way to balance the scales. Maria had spent years being invisible. Now she made sure others were seen.